Hello?
Hello, can you hear me, Rena?
Yes, I can.
Right, thank you
Okay.
for being here today, and thank you everyone for joining us. This is Shadia Mansour. I am the current chair of the English as a Foreign Language interest section at TESOL International, and it is a great pleasure to have you today to give our webinar, and I'm just going to take a very few moments to introduce you. So our presenter today is Dr. Iryna Kozlova. She's a lecturer in the TESOL Program, Graduate School of Education, University of Pennsylvania. Her research interests include the use of second and foreign language spoken discourse in the classroom and in casual conversation, application of technology for second and foreign language teaching and learning, task-based learning, and teacher training. She has taught applied linguistics, ESL, and Russian in the United States and internationally. And above all, I know her personally, and she's a great scholar. And I know that you're going to enjoy this webinar. Thank you again, Iryna. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shadia. I would like to thank Shadia as well for inviting me to be here with you today. So, and even though I do research on and I've taught online for a long time, so actually this is the first time that I'm doing a webinar. And I was a little bit worried about how many people are going to be here, and about everything. So, hello, everyone. If you don't mind, I can turn off my video camera so that you can actually focus on the slides rather than on me. Would it be okay? Yeah, but if you want, during the discussion, I can turn on the camera again, okay? Today, my presentation is on factors affecting learner collaboration in 3D virtual worlds. How do I move the slides? Oh, okay, I see. I guess I need to get rid of the... Okay, got it. Today we will talk a little bit about collaboration and how it is defined, because different people look at collaboration from different perspectives. We'll talk about the importance of collaboration for learner language skills development, and we'll talk about technology-supported collaboration, especially how it is used in this study. I will talk about the instructional design because this study was about teaching and learning. We'll talk about learners and teachers. We'll talk about the task design, rationale for it, and I will very briefly talk about how the data were collected, coded, and analyzed. And I hope we'll spend most of the time on the findings, specifically factors that affected learner collaboration in this environment. We'll also talk about pedagogical implications of the study, and I will try to make connections to face-to-face classroom if some of you just teach in face-to-face, not online. So talking about collaboration, I included this picture intentionally because this picture reflects very well the definition of collaboration provided by Donato. So collaboration, probably if you know that if you want students to collaborate, what they often do is they just divide the task or the assignment into parts, and each of them they do their part, and then they put together, and then they present. So it's not what Donato did. And you can see in this picture how students are actually talking to each other. They do different types of work. They contribute to their work. Some of them they are looking for information. Let me switch to the arrow. Some of them they're finding information. Then they talk. See, several students are talking, and so they respond to each other's contribution. And in the course of their collaborative activity, they construct new knowledge and new products. So learning, and somehow they learn when they are doing this task. So according to Lansov, who actually works from the perspective of sociocultural theory. Knowledge is socially owned, and it happens that oh, I just hear noises. And what happens is learners initially, they may not know how to conduct the activity, but with the help of experts or more experienced peers, they learn how to do it, and then they internalize this knowledge. So collaboration, according to Swain, is especially important for language learning because over the course of collaboration, language is used as both a language object and the tool that mediates language learning. So basically, learning is, when working together, learners use language to learn. This was very quick theoretical introduction of what collaboration is. I'm trying to move to the next slide, and we'll talk about why we actually want learners to collaborate if you think in terms of language learning. First of all, collaboration is facilitated to second language acquisition because our learners produce output. And as you know that when producing output, they check what they know and what they don't know. They get feedback from their peers. Where's my mouse? They get feedback from their peers, and also something is going on and I cannot see my mouse. So it's really weird. Oh, sorry. I just lost my mouse. I'm clicking on stuff, and you know, like, but I don't really see how I can control it. Do you know how I can solve this problem?
Iryna, what are you trying to do?
So, okay, so yeah, I got my mouse back.
Okay.
So I was just trying to click and I couldn't control the screen. Sorry. Okay, so collaboration, as I said, I think I was here at students, learners can get control, they can get feedback, and they also can modify the output. So Swain says that what output and collaborative activity have in common is that they share a cognitive activity and its product. So another thing, that collaboration is really good for learners' fluency development. And especially it's because when collaborating, they use language spontaneously. So this spontaneous use of language was found to be very facilitative to, again, to developing fluency, and especially it comes from the studies on study abroad. So students who are using language in the social setting and spontaneously, they improved a lot. So De Keyser says that fluency develops from practice, and that's why spontaneous use of language is actually good for developing fluency, because when we use language, we basically practice it, and what happens, we transform as learners declarative knowledge into procedural knowledge. And it's especially good for those who teach foreign languages, because students in the foreign language settings, they don't really have that much opportunity of using language. And when we create collaborative tasks for them, we create opportunities for their practice. Another thing that when collaborating, learners develop their interactional skills. So when they work together, they have to produce language, they need to produce speech acts, they need to manage interactions such as turn taking, pausing, managing who goes first, next, and this actually helps in developing their skills as speakers and listeners. Johnson & Johnson, they describe this type of interaction as promoted interaction. And it's when participants encourage and facilitate each other's efforts to reach the group's goals. And especially when they work on the task, like when they have to when students need to make decisions, or when they need to solve problems. Today we will be talking about a specific type of collaboration. A collaboration that is organized around a computer screen, as you can see here, or in this picture, or I still cannot use my mouse to use, like, see, my arrows do not work. Sorry, guys. On the picture on the left, students work together around the computer screen, and see how I pointed, how I emphasize that they're looking, see their gaze, they look at the same thing on the computer. And also, okay, great. So the collaboration that I will be talking about today is similar to the picture, the collaboration that you see in the picture on the left, but it was happening in the 3D virtual world. Okay, so students were in the world, and they were working together in front of the collaboration board. Okay, but again, pay attention to their gaze. It's also they focus on the screen, and they were producing something on the screen. So now I would like you to think about, I don't know, can you guys type on the slide, or you can use just chat for typing? So I have several questions before moving on. So if you think about this collaboration and this computer screen, why do you think this computer screen or collaboration board can make any difference to collaboration? Why is it important for students to, what function does this board have? Any ideas? Just why collaboration board? Why computer screen? Why do I want students to collaborate and share? Okay, share. What do they share? What happens when they share? Interact. Okay. So when they look at the board, so they keep their attention. They focus on what they do. They have a shared goal. They can discuss. Excellent. Excellent. That's right. So basically, it promotes teamwork. Exactly. But there is another function. Exactly. There is another function. What Maskell says, she says that the information that appears on the computer screen can function has a scaffolding function. And she draws on the findings of Wood, Brunner, and Ross, who said that when we scaffold students, basically we focus their attention, we constrain the degree of freedom, making tasks more manageable. We keep our students focused on the problem-solving activity, and scaffolding also highlights important features. So similar to scaffolding, exactly the same thing this information does to students. And she says that these features can prompt interactional routines that are so central to language learning. Okay, so are we good so far? Great. Okay, so having all this in mind, this study that I'm going to share with you focuses, and these are two research questions. What factors influence learners' multimodal collaboration in 3D virtual worlds? And do students' collaboration skills improve over the 6 weeks of study? Because we had this project for 6 weeks. And I would like to focus on the word multimodal collaboration. So multimodal means that students collaborate, so when basically they interact, because we already know that collaboration involves interaction, right? So, and they interact in more than one modality. So they speak, and at the same time they can type. They can type on the collaboration board, or they can send messages. They can type messages in the environment. So now we need to talk about what actual 3D worlds are. They are, I just put together like a very brief definition, kind of collective definition borrowed from different scholars. So this environment is multimodal and immersive, because when students log in there as avatars, they feel like they have this real life experiences. They find themselves in their real life locations, and scholars believe that this type of environment inspires learners to interact like in real life. Another thing about this environment that compared to the regular classroom or even virtual classroom like this one in which we are in, okay? So its environment is conceptually different. Even though we are now in online, in virtual environment, it's still like we feel like in the classroom, right? The slide board, like my slides are pretty much like the board in the classroom, right? But this is quite different. So it's also this environment allows for experiential learning and problem solving. And it's because students can actually do the task and they can move in the environment. So all these features of the environment was used in this project, which was altogether it was like a very long 10-week project, but we had 4 weeks for the development of the task and 6 weeks for teaching real students. So who were our learners? Our learners were 8 ESL students from Turkey. There were 6 female students and 2 male students. And you can read the information about them on the slide. But I should say that their goal was like why they wanted to participate in this project, because they were trying to enter a university with English as a medium of instruction, and they wanted to, and their teachers wanted them to improve their speaking skills. They were looking for partners from somewhere from English-speaking countries so that they could improve their fluency in speaking with native speakers. So our teachers were 6 teacher trainees. So they were enrolled in the Teaching English as a Second and Foreign Language certificate program in one of the Canadian colleges. They were enrolled in my technology course, and they were volunteers. So it was not part of the assignment for their course, but they did get partial credit for doing this project with me. So at the beginning of the study, neither students nor teacher trainees, and I didn't either. So no one had any experience teaching or learning in the 3D virtual world. So it was quite an experience for us just to explore the environment, to figure out how everything works, and to create tasks. So we had 6 weeks, and we created 6 tasks because we believe that task-based instruction is really good for developing of the listening skills. And we also added a collaborative component. Collaborative component in a sense that students actually have to do everything together. And we used collaboration boards for these purposes. But we also had, by the way, if you want to learn more about the project, I included this reference from the study from Kozlova and Prim in 2015, and this study is published in Language Learning and Technology. So along with teaching skills, we thought that students would be good for students to develop academic skills as well. So that's why another reason to use those collaboration boards, on top of the reason that they actually can serve scaffolding function, as I explained earlier. And another thought about using collaboration board was some studies that show that if students produce language through text, like typing, so text-based language production positively impacts learners' oral fluency development, because production of oral and text-based messages both involve the same cognitive processes. So Blake used leveled model of speech production to explain it. And what happens when we produce either written message or spoken message, we go through several stages. So first, we form our message at the conceptualization stage. Basically, it appears like an idea, right? And then we try to put this idea into words with some grammatical features, right? And then the third stage is the production stage. So basically, so the first two stages are the same, but the final stage, production, it just involves different muscles of the body. If you think about typing, first saying a message and then typing a message, you can see that students produce the same thing twice. And since they articulate the same idea twice, and if you think about collaboration, right, and if you think about fluency development, so during this process, so the actual facilitate, this process may positively affect fluency development because of the dual language processing. Okay, now about the tasks. So there were 6 tasks, and they had different content. I sent Shada a PDF file of my presentation. If Shada would be so kind to send all of you that handout, and then you can actually look at the task description, because it will be quite lengthy if I describe each of the tasks now. So each task includes 4 stages. Brainstorming, again, and this stage students are brainstorming and taking notes on the collaboration board. Then the second stage was doing research or exploring the environment. It would depend on the task. And then it's the stage where they actually collected information. And then they went back to the collaboration board, preparing for their presentation, and then presenting. So we had 6 tasks, and we included this procedural task repetition component because there were findings that even if students are engaged in the tasks with different content, when they go through the same procedures, somehow it affects their development of both oral and written fluency. And with another thought, so procedural task repetition may help learners improve their collaboration skills, because the same procedure, they repeat the same procedure several times, and it may help learners to routinize their collaboration practices. Are we good so far? I know that it's a little bit kind of complicated, but if I don't share this design with you, so like it won't make sense what we were doing. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so the tasks are here. I don't know, Shadi, did you send the handout, or I will just stop like for a while and let you read through the slides?
I'm trying to figure out how to send it. I have it, but I don't know how to send it.
Okay, then never mind. I'll just let students maybe take screenshots.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
to save time. Because,
yeah. Okay,
I'll try to see if I can.
And my mouse doesn't work. I basically what I can do, I just can click on the keys on my keyboard.
Just go ahead with what you're doing. It's perfectly clear right now. Thank you.
Okay, and here is the other 3 tasks. So please take screenshots. Yes, if you wanna follow me, and you can actually look at when I talk about the weeks. And these tasks are, I placed them in the order how they appeared. Like the first task was during the first week, and then the second week, the fourth week, so on and so forth. Okay. So we developed these 6 tasks, and then we started teaching. So the data, like all the teaching sessions, were recorded. We recorded the sessions with Camtasia Relay, and then I transcribed the data. I used the coding scheme from Moore, Hammett, and Andy, and I adapted it a little bit according to what I saw in the data. But all the interactions, just to observe whether students actually collaborated, meaning they responded to other people's messages, they accepted whether they accepted contributions or not, whether they expressed their opinions, or asking for feedback, or they were negotiating for meaning. So these codes, I coded all the interaction using these codes. But if you think about interactions, so when people say something, usually they get response to what they said, right? And that leads to utterances, like an utterance itself and response. So it's pretty much like question and answer. They are called adjacency pairs. So to see whether actually students interacted, I looked at the adjacency pairs. And for the purpose of this study, I considered different types of adjacency pairs. For example, in the example that you can see, and like it's highlighted with the right bracket. So students, the contribution was in one language, but response was in a different one. Or in the same example, you can see that the answer was spoken, was produced orally. The regular font shows the spoken discourse, and italics, what you can see in the italics, it's typed, but the acceptance was in the text-based mode. So it was quite a bit of coding and data analysis. Okay, so now we get to the results of the study. And since my mouse doesn't work, I cannot see the right part of my slide, but I remember it. So you can see that I highlighted those cells with different colors. And but under the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you can see these are the weeks. If you look at the first week, and you can see that most of the cells are highlighted red. And it actually shows that during the first week, our students just did not collaborate at all, even though we thought they would. The only thing some of the students did, they were sharing knowledge. So sharing knowledge is basically kind of typing on the collaboration board. Then you can see a lot of cells in green, and you will be probably you kind of look you are surprised that they didn't do anything in week 1, but then week 2 they use so many collaboration strategies, interactional strategies, and they really did collaborate. It's because we taught them how to. There are also cells highlighted yellow, and I thought that was really interesting, because remember how in all studies we look at whether students negotiated for meaning, whether students negotiated for form, and they didn't actually do it in every single week. So, and it depends on the character of the task, on the task design, and we'll talk about it later at the end of our presentation. When I finish with the findings. So let's look at what factors actually have affected students' collaboration. So first of all, our familiarity with the environment. Then learners' familiarity with the format of their learning activity. Then learners' experience with spontaneous use of second language. And pedagogical techniques that we apply. And I will talk about each of the factors in the individually. Okay, so it is really important that instructors are familiar with the environment as much as students. Because what happened when we explored the environment, we knew that that each room, so the environment has like each room or each space where students can collaborate. They have only one collaboration. Those rooms have only one collaboration board. Even though this collaboration board can be used as a computer screen, it's a via light engage. I would be happy to type, but I do not, for some reason, don't have control of my mouse. But when I finish the presentation, I'll just try to type it. It's a via light engage. Even though there are those collaboration boards can be used as computer screens, you can actually browse the internet. One of the drawbacks is that not like on your personal computer, you cannot open two tabs or two windows. So let's say if you want your students to browse the internet to collect the information, and if you want them at the same time collaborate, they cannot do it in one collaboration board. And we thought that maybe like if we can open a browser in one room and then they can commute to another room to collaborate, that would be good, but it didn't really work out because it was very time consuming, very inconvenient, and students ended up finding, not looking at the same screen, but looking for information on their personal computers, which did not really affect, well, which was unfavorably affected collaboration. Another thing, they kind of talked to each other. They were collecting information, but they didn't work in the sense that how we thought collaboration would work. And that's why in week, yeah, that's exactly a via light engage. And that's why we need to teach. We have to teach them in the second week how to access Notepad, which is which we were using, and it's an open source editor. Or by the way, instead of Notepad, you can use Google Documents, so it's pretty much the same. So we have to teach them the skills, and we have to teach them how to use the software. Another factor was their familiarity with the format of the learning activity. So when we want, so basically what happens when we want students to participate in an activity, we just assume that they know how to collaborate, right? And it doesn't happen. So as students shared with us, Cherie, who was teaching in week 1, she noted that Princess and Anoop, two students, were not actually doing. She noted that they were just standing, not doing anything, and she asked if they have any difficulties, and they said that they haven't done anything like that before, so they don't know how to participate in this activity. Other students, in example 2, they just typed on the board, but see, there are no feedback from other students, so it's not what exactly collaboration means. Those of you who teach students with the same language background, you probably know that it's really hard to get them talk in the target language in the classroom. And it's not because they don't want to use the second language or the language that they're learning. As students told us that it's not really natural, and it's very strange to talk to people who share with you the first language to speak the second or the target language. So, and this was one of the factors. It took them some time to kind of get used to actually talk to each other in a different language. So now we are moving to the pedagogical techniques. Yeah, thank you. So since we our students didn't do anything in week 1, we were worried. And then we began to implement the kind of equip them with the strategies. So the second week, in the second week, they were doing a task about smartphone application. So they had to decide, a computer company, you can read the description of this task. So a computer company asked them to tell what application as college students they would like to have on their smartphones. So they had to browse the internet, find the information, make a list of the applications, and then decide which 3 of the applications they would like to have on their smartphones. And Jack, who was teaching in that week, asked students just like for a second, just talk to each other. And even just asking students to talk to each other was really helpful, because you can see that actually there is interaction going on. And I put it in the green square. Can you see it on the slide? I just listed the strategies, interactional strategies that they were using during the second week. And also I would like you to, yeah, great. So if you look at this example, I highlighted some lines there. And this is related to what I was talking about dual processing. So basically what we wanted students to do was very complicated thing. And if you look at the green, at the blue line, so Daniel was saying one thing, like TOEFL preparation maybe. So he asked Honor, how about TOEFL, asking for feedback? TOEFL preparation maybe. But at the same time, he's typing a different thing. So English dictionary. But if you look at lines 28 and 30, so here Onur is processing the same message twice. He types easy to share notes, and he says, he reformulates this message to share with Daniel. I say easy to share notes. And the same thing happens in lines 34 and 35, 34 and 35 with Daniel. So basically this, our assumption about this dual processing worked, and you can see that students were able, by taking notes, students were able to process the same message in different forms twice. Another strategy was using one student as a scribe. And this strategy was also quite effective because when one student was typing and another was, or other students, depending on how many people were in the group, were actually contributing verbally, students would focus on grammar and spelling. And here, and you know that negotiation of form does not really happen a lot when students collaborate, but since they had to produce a written output, they had to think about how to spell things. And in this example, Aileen and Dilara are negotiating how to spell the word Dropbox. So you can read the transcript. Yeah. So another strategy was accessing the same input. So accessing the same input actually made students to read the description of different apps and then interpret the information in their own way. So this allowed students to negotiate not just for meaning or a form. They were trying to negotiate the idea, how they understand certain applications. Here, they are trying to make sense what is my homework and what they can do with this application and what is simple mind. And you can see that they have different ideas about how this application is used. You cannot see the end of the conversation here, but it was quite lengthy. So at the end, they come up with the idea that probably they can use both my homework and Simple Mind. And because they kind of complement each other, they can use both applications in jointly somehow. So it was a lot of negotiation, a lot of challenging each other contributions, and they had to support their opinions. So it was a lot of, they used very many interactional patterns, and it was a lot of talking. Another strategy was actually scaffolding. It's when teachers who were presenting in the room with students and helping them, like if students had some questions, when they saw that students were not talking and just typing on the board, they tried to model the interaction. Like here, Joanne was asking Dilara and Aileen, why do you think those applications, meaning would make good apps? And then students had to share their ideas. So they, and later they internalize that process, and you will very surprised that just 1 week of teaching how to collaborate would actually allow students to collaborate later in weeks 3, 4, 5, and 6. So when the students become more comfortable with the environment, and when they already learn the strategies of how to collaborate, they begin to explore collaboration on their own. In week 3, you can observe the emergence of another interactional pattern as urging to accept their contributions. So in this week, they began to ask for feedback, not just general feedback, but they began to ask students who were actually silent. Flirting? So they said, Maria, what are you thinking? And Maria was quite quiet. And then, I'm waiting ideas from you. Yeah. So Maria finally shared her ideas, but Anur did not actually take notes. And then she wanted him to acknowledge her contributions, and she goes, right, please. So week four, we see the emergence of another interactional pattern. So in week 4, students begin to take control of what they're actually doing. For that week, they had to create, the task was about disadvantaged children who are coming to the, who are visiting the Tipontia Island. And they had to create the activities for kids that would help them to exercise, to be healthier, to develop self-confidence and build trust. And the activities that they were suggesting were all of them, most of them, they were about fun. And here, Princess said, so we actually, what we're talking about is just fun activities. Maybe we should think about other type of activities. So here you can see students' control of the collaboration process and the task itself. But the most interesting part was in week 5. So in week 5, students, if you have any questions, yeah. Okay, so in week 5, students were editing each other's notes. Here they were talking about time capsules and what they can put in the time capsule for the future generations. And students, well, they talk, they share their ideas, they challenge their ideas, and at the same time, I included the screenshot, and you can see that, so 3 students collaborate, each student has different colors. And you can see how colors, so the green gets into the red, and yellow into the red as well. It means that they are not working with their own text. They're working with the text, with this text as the production of the text together. How would it linguistically? So we didn't really look at the linguistic gains for this study, but based on the production and what you can see, students and their feedback, by the way, they feel more comfortable to talk. So this is, I think, because of this procedural repetition of the task, because they know their routine. They were more comfortable to contribute, and they know what kind of interactional patterns they can use, and they were more comfortable to talk as well. So if you think about the implications, what can we gain from this study? So as teachers, we just need to think about, like, if we implement new software, a new program, and we want our students to work and learn through participating in this type of activities, we really need to learn the environment. Because tools are very important. If we don't know how to use the tools, if we don't know how to organize the process, so the students will not be able to carry out the task. Another thing is that students really need to know how to participate in the activities. So if they don't know the format, again, they may not be participating, as happened in our study during the first week. They just don't know what to do. And I already mentioned that we need to teach them how to collaborate by introducing some strategies, like what it means, like you can talk to each other, or you can use one student as a scribe and the other contribute verbally. So all these strategies need to be taught if we want our students to get most of the activity. It's very beneficial to engage students in the tasks that have similar structure. So as you can see, every week they became more and more comfortable talking, and they knew what they were doing, and they were using more and more interaction patterns. So I believe that keeping the structure of the task the same, but changing the content, it does favorably affect student participation and collaboration. So in relation to negotiating for meaning, form, and ideas, and as I mentioned earlier, and probably you should see the, I don't, because it's covered with the GoToMeeting control panel. You can see I just posted that screenshot of the weeks with highlighted cells. So negotiating for meaning, it's not because our students don't want to negotiate all the time. It really depends on the type of the task and the input they work with. So when they were looking for the information on the internet, they were learning new words that other group members didn't know, and that's why they had to negotiate the meaning. So some of the tasks included input from the teacher, oral input from the teacher. So students had to negotiate the meaning with the teacher, but they didn't want to negotiate the meaning with them among themselves. One of our tasks included student-generated input. So basically, they were sharing their ideas, and we didn't get any negotiation of meaning for that task, because apparently they were using vocabulary that each of the students knew, and there was nothing to negotiate. So negotiation of form happened only when students were typing, and the output was really salient. So they can see inaccuracies in spelling, or they didn't know how to spell or how to say things, and that's what the role of collaboration was. So now, how can we relate it to the face-to-face classroom? And I included some pictures. So you can get the ideas from this study, and students can be organized in the classroom in a similar way. So the picture on the left, you can see that students are using iPads or computers, some of them, and they share the information with others. On the right, the top picture, students sit together, so they are able to actually contribute verbally, but then they access, but they have their laptops in front of them. So if we use Google Documents that they can contribute to. So that would be very similar to the collaborative organization of the collaborative activity in this study. And the picture on the right and the bottom, we already looked at it, and it also can be used like this type of organization can be used in the face-to-face classroom. So these were my ideas, and now I would like to thank you for listening to me for so long, and maybe you can ask me questions. I would be very happy to respond to them. And now I would like to turn on my video, but again, because for some reason my mouse does not work, I guess I'm just gonna stay without the video. Any questions?
Hello again, this is Shadia. I have two questions for you, Iryna. Thank you very much for this great study. This is very up-to-date and quite a learning experience, I guess, for the teachers and the students, given the fact that the virtual worlds are like the most up-to-date environment for language learning and teaching. So thank you for that. I learned a lot myself. So the first question is, how fast or slow the conversations were while of the students while conducting the task? I mean, I can see quite a bit of output and a lot of things going on, negotiating a meeting, of forum, of ideas, and trying to compare it to the face-to-face setting, and I think the output is way ahead of what our students tend to produce in the face-to-face setting, given like a 10-minute or time frame, 15-minute task in the classroom. So how is it? Was it fast? Was it slow? Was it lengthy in terms of time?
They were certainly talking to each other, starting with week 2, but it was quite it was challenging for them. We did have an hour-and-a-half session, so these tasks were done within this time frame, so an hour-and-a-half. But not all of the time students were working, because at the beginning we tried to talk to them because they didn't feel comfortable talking at all at the beginning. But then with the tasks, as I said, when they learn, okay, so let me just show the slides, the references. And it was very difficult for them to speak in English, especially it is, you know how in foreign language classroom students usually ask questions, teacher asks questions and students respond. But the hardest part is actually to talk in between the questions, like produce real life discourse.
Right.
And it can, if you look through the transcripts, you will be surprised that students were upper, their proficiency level was upper intermediate, but how broken their discourse was sometimes, because it was really hard to formulate messages, right? And it took some time for them to start speaking and formulate their utterances the way how they would do it in real life.
So this basically solves the problem that we have in face-to-face setting, which is related to the shortage of time. We cannot allow an hour and a half in the classroom for a task, and then we end up by rushing and no language production, or just, okay, done, tick, tick, go ahead, right? But here they get the chance to do it, and at the end, and most importantly, the output is there. And that's what matters.
Yeah. But you know what? You really need to take it with caution, because in online, everything happens slower than in real life. Because, and plus in this environment, just imagine students log in and they are at the landing, in the landing area. Then they need to move to the location where the task is implemented. Okay. So all this takes time. So maybe I would say that at least 20 minutes were used for introducing the task, explaining what they were supposed to do, and maybe the task itself was for maybe 40-45 minutes, like roughly.
Mm-hmm. That's good. All right. Well, does anyone else have a question? I don't want to take the floor. Please, you can type if you cannot use your microphone, or go ahead and unmute your microphone and ask your question.
Yes, please do so.
Any other questions? All right. Well, I have another question then. Sorry. You talked about the collaboration strategies. You talked about one of the main factors. You taught the students how to collaborate. Can you give us a few examples? And do you think that these strategies are applicable to all tasks, or in the task-based, approach, or do you think they could be task-specific?
So if you think about it, I'm going to just move the slides back and look at the strategies that we were teaching.
Okay.
So asking students to talk can be applied to any kind of activities, right? It's just like it was the first move, because Jeff, who was teaching, he was kind of like, what do I need to do to have them talk, right? Just talk, right? So then if you look at this strategy, using one student as a scribe, it can be used in any environment. By the way, I'm teaching a methodology course this semester, and I was demonstrating this strategy to my students in class, like having one student write on the board and other students contribute verbally, and we were talking about it. So it's very general strategy. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be relevant to one specific task. So when students collaborate, if someone takes notes, right, and the other people talk, they are already engaged in some kind of collaboration, because when they talk, let's say the student who is taking notes, he's like, oh, what did you say? Or you can say, oh, it's not what I meant, and that's how those interactions start. If you look at accessing the same input, it also can be used not just for specific tasks or specific environments, right? So right now, we are sharing the same input, and we can talk about what we can see on the slide, right? So you can give students the same reading material, they can listen to the same conversation, and it also means that they are accessing the same input, so they know something to talk about, they have something to talk about. And you certainly can scaffold students no matter what kind of task they engage in. So these were the 4 strategies. And I'm sure that probably you can think about more strategies. I'm just reporting on the strategies that we did for this study.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, my name is shown as Ahmed Fuad. That's my husband's name, because I'm using his computer. But I'm Shadia. Sorry. One final thought. I have 1 minute only. The 3D environment. This is a very new environment. How feasible it is, do you think? Is it easy? Is it hard? Can you just give us a very short hint about it while you use it?
Okay. I'm not gonna tell you that it's easy, because it's not. So what I should tell that it's a very complicated environment, but the learning in this environment is actually very interesting how it happens, because it's just totally different experience. But certainly teachers need to go through some kind of training. At least they need to feel the environment, and they learn. It's quite a bit of learning process. I use this environment in my summer technology course, but we were using Verbella. Because the 3D consultant who I work with So she works with Verbella, and she offered a Verbella environment. So that environment actually also had a non-player avatar. So non-player avatars like avatars that are planted in the environment, but you can add, you can record what they say, or you can type the output that they produce. And again, as the environment changes, so the task can change. But yeah, but I would say that it's worth trying. It's very interesting.
All right, thank you very much. We it's time is up right now. I would like to thank everyone for being here, and Michelle will sometime this week will send me a recording of this webinar, and I will share it through the TESOL International Association to the different groups, to the EFLIS, and to the others as well. So thank you again, and have a great day. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Iryna. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye-bye.